Welcome in to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and the host for this week's podcast. And this is the Alabama Bass Trail podcast for the week of June the 16th, your post Pickwick report, and your preview of Lay Lake, the final stop of the Alabama Bass Trail South Division. But before we get started, I hope everyone got to celebrate Father's Day with their dad. Hope you got a chance to see and spend time with your loved ones. That's always an important thing. It was a day of relaxation around here. Rob had to work, so it was a day of relaxation and actually kind of therapy. And I always say that after tournaments is you need that post-tournament therapy. And mine is working in the yard, cleaning my house, unpacking my suitcase. That is my therapy. It gives me time to kind of not really think about things and just kind of get out and work. And I absolutely enjoy yard work and getting a little grimy and dirty and sweaty and all the things. So that's kind of my thing. That's how I de-stress. And then luckily I get to go and jump in the pool and cool off and relax out there. And I'm not gonna lie, had a couple bush lights doing that. So it was a nice, relaxing Sunday afternoon. Got a short shower in the afternoon, which was refreshing and greened everything back up. So that's one thing we can't say we've had a lack of this year is rain. I think we had almost 11 and a half inches in May. And June has been quite soggy as well. And if you watch the Pickwick tournament, if you watch the live coverage there, you notice that we had several downpours. We had rain during the weigh-in. Luckily, no downpours during the weigh-in, but certainly we got our share of rain on Saturday. And it was a little cooler than what we experienced down at Lake Eufaula. I think the temperatures were in the 80s, but overcast skies really kept the temperatures down. And I think that actually helped the fishing quite a bit. Going into the tournament, I heard a lot of people saying that the fishing was a little off. But you had those one or two guys that you saw that were like, we're catching 50 fish a day. We can't find that better than 5 pounder. But if you're looking for better than 5 pounders, it's not a terrible day. So it was a great tournament. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But I mean, yeah, wowza. I mean, it was a crazy tournament. 26 bags over 20 pounds. And I was thinking we had a tournament where we had about 24 bags over 20 pounds. But looking back in 2021, we were there in February. It was the first tournament of the year. We had 19 bags over 20 pounds. And then last year, we were also there in February and we had 10 bags over 20 pounds. So we had 26 bags over 20 pounds, 1868 to get a check. And actually leading up to the tournament, I heard guys saying 15 pounds to get paid. I didn't think that. I thought it would be around that 18-pound mark just based on the weights that we've seen all year long. I really felt like we would crest that 30-pound bag, but I felt like it would take around 18 pounds to get a check. 1868 to get the 40th place check. 2769 gets it done on Pickwick Lake. William Nichols and Jake Young. They also took home the $1,000 for the big fish. They had a 787 for big fish. So tremendous win for that young team. I think this is their second year fishing the Alabama Bass Trail, and maybe just their first year on the North. We'll talk to them in the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast here in just a little bit. But I wanted to go ahead and round out. You got Blake Hawkins and Josh Clark, one of the closest finishes. I still think that Josh Chappell and Paul Davis had the closest second place finish with .02 100ths of an ounce at Lake Martin a couple years ago. But Blake Hawkins, Josh Clark finished second with 2764. They took home $7,500. And then Lance and Cole Walker took home third place. And I have their weight here. Sorry. 2592. Y'all are going to catch me getting old here. Hold on just a second. 2692. Five fish limit took home $6,000 from the Alabama Bass Trail. Then also a $2,500 for the highest finishing Phoenix bass boat. and an additional $1,000 from Garmin for having the Garmin trolling motor and Garmin exclusive electronics. So, hefty little payday there for them. That's $9,500 for third place. Really cool. Thank you, Lance and Cole Walker, for supporting Alabama Bass Trail sponsors because without them, we could not do what we do. We could not pay out over 100% back to our anglers. So, but that's not all. Hunter Davidson, Bryant Fikes take home the Angler of the Year title for the Alabama Bass Trail North Division, 1,047 points. What an awesome comeback. These guys went into this event fourth in Angler of the Year points. I'm going to talk about that again in just a little bit. We're going to actually have an all Angler of the Year podcast on June the 30th. So we'll be holding their interview until then, but just want to talk about their win and how they accomplished, Angler of the Year. Smith Lake, 12th place. Of course, Gunnersville, 58 bags over 20 pounds, and they won an epic event at Lake Gunnersville. Neely Henry, 32nd place. That was their, they kind of struggled a little bit on the Coosa. Weiss Lake, 33rd place, and then came back at Pickwick and had a fifth place finish there. So, really cool, 1,047 points. That gets them the North Angler of the Year. And I'm going to bring Luke Dunkin in the third segment. We're going to talk about Lay Lake and talk about how that's setting up and what that points race looks like and what that Angler of the Year is going to have to do to beat them for overall Angler of the Year. So, as most of you know, Zeke Gossett, Ethan King currently leading that race by a healthy margin. So we're going to talk about that when we get Luke on the podcast. We'll make our picks and do all of that. But we'll determine that after the Lay Lake event. Zeke Gossett, Ethan King, if they can hold on, by my math, they cannot finish any lower than 41st place. And if you've watched them all year, that hasn't been a problem. So it's going to be an interesting time as we look forward to Lay Lake. It's always going to be fun to go down to Lay Lake, get back on the Coosa River, a place that's been very, very good to the Alabama Bass Trail. And June's been a really hot month for Chris Rutland, Kobe Carden down there. So we'll see if they creep into Luke Dunkin's top 5 picks. I have a feeling that they will, but we'll talk to Luke in just a little bit. I do want to say Pickwick was also not without drama for our team. We had 2 of our team members that were injured in a non-related accident. You may have read Daniel Montgomery's post on Facebook. Had some nice young men come out and do a fish fry for us for the team. And, it's always hard for our team to get lunch, depending on where we are. It's just hard for us to leave the location and go and get lunch. But they came out, they cooked crappie and turkey and fries and all kinds of things, hush puppies for our team. We're all sitting around having a great time fellowshipping. And one of our team members walked over, sat down on the trailer, did not realize that it was not hooked up to a truck. It tilted and spilled hot grease all over two of our team members. Brody Montgomery was burned about 18% of his body, had second-degree burns, and Mr. Danny Montgomery had second-degree burns on his feet. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Brody and Danny. Brody is going to UAB to the medical burn unit today to have his wounds looked at. He was taken by ambulance to North Alabama Medical Center, and Danny was as well. They have been released to go home. Brody was sent to UAB today to have his burns looked at to see if there's any further treatment that needs to be done. I want to say 2 weeks in a row that our team has dealt with adversity. Of course, that's Daniel Montgomery's son and Daniel Montgomery's dad that was involved in this. Daniel's our assistant tournament director, very vital to our team. Brody and Danny, very vital to our team. We work on kind of a skeleton crew anyway, but in true Alabama Bass Trail team fashion, one of our guys that works with us part time just happened to be there walking his dogs. He took them home. He came back. He worked with us, jumped in, helped us. Everybody else picked up additional slack. Ben, Russell, Noah, Jared all helped take down the stage after things were done. Not part of their job. Noah shoots photography. Jared shoots photography and videography. Ben, you, shoots photography, uses the drone. Russell does video for us, and they all jumped in and helped take down the stage. And it means a lot when everybody jumps in and helps. And I know it meant a lot to Brody and Danny. I know how much those two love the Alabama Bass Trail. I know how much they hated to be away. Actually, Brody sent me a message and said, I hate to leave the team in a bind. And my heart goes out to Daniel when we sit there and think about the pain that his son was in, and he did leave and go to the hospital, but he came back and was there for weigh-in. That just shows you the commitment. I said this last week, and I brag on our team, and I want them to know how truly vital they are to the Alabama Bass Trail. But when you choose to fish with an organization, I want you to know who you're fishing for and who you're fishing, who, not really fishing for, but the team that's there taking care of you. I really want you to understand what a family unit we have. And I am so very, very thankful and so very, very blessed that I work alongside these men and women. My daughter, Emma, has been working with us this year, handling our tickets, helping me with checks, tracking different things, some sponsorship activation stuff, and to watch her kick into paramedic mode and watch her treat Brody and Danny was amazing. Makes me extremely proud of her, not because of what all she's learned, but just her willingness and the compassion and authority that she showed, and very proud of Emma and thankful to have her alongside me this year on the Alabama Bass Trail. It's very heartwarming to know that she shares the same passion for these people as I do. So thank you, Miss Emma. I hope you get to hear this. But it was 2 weeks in a row. We are not trying to make it 3 weeks in a row at Lay Lake, so I can promise you that. But we had Luke Dunkin's wife and his daughter was there, Miss Harper and Miss Marissa was there. They got to be there on Father's Day weekend. I know it was a special time for Luke to be on Pickwick. That's where he and his dad spent a lot of time. He passed away last November. I know it was special for him to be there on Pickwick on Father's Day weekend. I'm glad Marissa and them got to come down and be a part of it. And then just all the dads. I think you may have saw a video on Facebook that Miss Angela put together for us for all the not all the dads, but a lot of the dads on the Alabama Bass Trail. It's really cool. We said this the other day. Me and Kenny were talking about we start seeing these kids. We were talking especially about Bailey Dukes. We've watched Bailey since he was maybe a freshman in high school. And we watched him grow up through football and all the sports and then fishing. And now he gets married this year. He's building a house. And it's just really cool to see all of the dads and the young men and women that we've got to see grow through the Alabama Bass Trail. And I do hope that you'll keep Mr. Danny and Brody in your thoughts and prayers as they recover. They will not be with us this week at Lay Lake as they will be home recovering from those injuries. So please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And then again, Mr. Kenny Carroll will be laid to rest this afternoon in Opelika. So our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to him and his family. But an exciting weekend on Pickwick for Will Nichols and Jake Young. We'll be back in just a minute to talk with them. And again, we are going to hold the Angler of the Year podcast until the 30th of June. We'll have it that week. We'll talk to both the Anglers of the Year in the South and the Anglers of the Year in the North and give you all the lowdown of that. We'll talk about the top 9. Let's do that right quick. Let's talk about the top 9 teams that qualified for the Bassmaster Team Championship through the North Division. Of course, first place, Hunter Davidson and Bryant Fikes. Second place team, Damian Willis and Tyler Kiker, finished 3 points behind. Third place team, Jake Bice and Briar Chambers. What a year that team had, and Briar getting it done on the ABT 100 as well. Fourth place team, Adam Bain, Chris Colley, no strangers to Bassmaster Team Championship. Fifth place team, Mark McCagg, Tim Hurst. Sixth place, Nolan Spencer, Jonathan Reese. Seventh place team, Blake Hall, Jeremy Lamb. Eighth place, Ryan and Fisher Anaya. And then our ninth place team, Benji and Jonathan Seaborn. So those are the 9 teams from the North that will receive the invitation to visit or to compete in the Bassmaster Team Championship in December at Lake Hartwell in Anderson, South Carolina. So those are the 9 teams from this division that will get to go. We'll see if all of them accept that invitation, but we'll be back in just a minute. We're going to get our winning team from Pickwick Lake on the phone and let you hear from them as how their day went, what baits and all the things that was important to them, and then what it means to them to beat this field of anglers. These are Coosa River guys, but they came up to the Tennessee River and they got it done in a big, big way. So we'll be back in just a minute, but you're watching and listening to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. We'll be right back.
Things you let me see.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. And we're just called this the Will and Jake Show because they showed out at Pickwick, getting the win with 27.69. Also taking home the big fish money, $1,000 for a 787 big fish for the tournament. Their first win on the Alabama Bass Trail. Welcome to the show, Mr. Will Nichols and Jake Young, guys. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Man, there's one way to ensure that you get to be on the podcast, and that is to win an event, and you guys did it in a big way, 27.69. Did y'all think you could do that in practice?
No, ma'am. Based off what we've seen in practice, I figured probably the best we could do was around 15 to 17 pounds. But luckily for us, on tournament day, they grew a little bit, and we ended up having more than what we anticipated.
All right. Will, when you got your boat number, I know you had probably already figured out that you were going to be boat number 212 after we kind of told y'all which way we were going and how many you add to it. I know y'all probably did the math and knew where you were going to be. Were you disappointed at all that you were going to have a late boat number like that?
I was a little bit. I was really, anticipating on finding schools and all in Pickwick like normally you would. But I think this year, just due to the little bit cooler weather and all the rain we had, there wasn't as many schools out there, or at least from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so got out there practicing. We did do a lot of graphing, wasn't seeing a whole lot. But that's kind of when we got dialed in on a little bit of the stump pattern that we were doing.
Okay.
And gave us a little bit more hope being a later boat number.
Okay. Another team that you're familiar with, Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker, they've been giving me, we'll just say hell for about 3 months because they were going to be a late boat number at Pickwick. So they can't tell me that you can't catch them in the later flights at Pickwick in June anymore because I can combat that with you guys. Boat 212, you had about 2 hours later to fish. Talk about what time did you have your first limit?
We had our first limit relatively quick that morning. We drove into the rain at blast off as we were getting to our starting place. and we really caught two keepers just really quick, probably in the first 15 minutes, and then the next 30 or 40 minutes after that really was a blur because we just started catching one nearly every cast. We was catching off stumps, and so literally every stump we came to, it seemed like we was catching a 4 pounder. Um, but we probably had our first limit by 7:30.
Jake, how was that ride down the lake into that rain?
I seen it coming when we got right past the island. I told him, I said, I think that's raining. He was like, no, it's just some fog. And then all of a sudden we was getting poured on for about 2 minutes. So it wasn't real fun for about 2 minutes there.
Yeah, Luke said that it felt like just buckshot. Like he said, it's just like little bullets hitting you when you're running 60, 70 miles an hour in that rain. It was not fun at all. I thought maybe he was just being a wuss, but no, you're saying it wasn't too fun, huh?
It wasn't fun at all.
All right, so you had your first limit within maybe the first hour after you got to your spot. What did that limit weigh, you think?
Our first limit we had was 15.
Okay.
Something I believe that we had a 5, a 4, and then maybe just the rest were 2 pounders.
Okay. Are you throwing away 2 pounders? Or are you throwing them back when you're catching them?
No, man, I don't believe in that. I think throwing away a keeper's bad luck, so I keep all my keepers until I can get rid of them.
Okay. All right. I like that because we saw some guys on live that did not have a limit in the boat, but they were throwing back 2 pounders. And I was like, what? I don't understand. But of course, these are Mitch Mitchell, Caleb McCollum. They got a ton of experience on that lake. Mitch knew that that wasn't going to help him to begin with. So, all right, let's talk about you. You mentioned stumps. What kind of depth are you talking?
They were just on the edge of the river channel, anywhere from about 10 to 12 foot.
Okay. Jake, what kind of baits are you throwing?
He was throwing a minnow up there on the stumps, and I was just throwing a scrounger up there on the flat.
Okay. What you got on that scrounger head?
Just a freeloader.
Freeloader. Any particular color?
Just whatever. It didn't matter. And a shad color freeloader.
Okay. All right. 10 to 12 feet. Is that kind of the depth that you stayed all day, Will?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're live scoping. You're seeing these on live scope. All of your fish come off live scope?
All of them but one. Jake caught those two early on a scrounger, but I ended up calling one of the 4 pounders out. But yeah, 4 out of the 5 we weighed in were on live scope.
Okay. All right. Um, what time of the day did you have your final limit that you brought to the scales?
We caught our last keeper, which was the big fish of the tournament. We caught it at probably around 11 o'clock. Around 10 o'clock, 10:30, I was debating coming back closer to weigh-in just because I knew I didn't want to get stuck down the river in case the weather had gotten bad.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew we needed one more good bite, and we ended up pulling up on one more place and catching that one close to 8. And at that time, I didn't think we had enough to win. I thought we had enough to have a really good finish, but we ended up heading back up towards the ramp probably around 12:30.
Okay. I know y'all came in and weighed in early, worried about, just making sure the fish don't expire and that you don't have that 1 pound dead fish penalty because 1 pound dead fish penalty puts you in fourth place instead of first place, a difference of $11,000. So you certainly didn't want to have that happen to you. Is this your first year fishing the North Division?
I actually fished the North Division. I think it was my first year out of high school. Me and one of my buddies that I fished college with, we
Okay.
fished it, I believe, to be 2017, but
Okay.
took a break for a while. And then last year, me and Jake fished the South Division. But this is my first year back in the North.
Okay. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Um, what's your favorite lake on the North Division, Will?
Well, after this past weekend, it'd be hard not to say Pickwick, but I'd have to go to our home lake of Neely Henry.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
That's where we
I was
spend.
You spend most of your time, you win a lot of money down there. certainly Pickwick showed out for you. I said this in the intro of the podcast, traditionally known as a Coosa River guy, and you came to Pickwick and got it done in a big way. Jake, had you ever been to Pickwick before?
Yes, we came in high school
Okay.
2014 and 15 and maybe
Okay.
2018.
Okay. All right. So you had a little bit of experience there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any tournaments this late in the year at Pickwick?
We had one like late May,
Okay.
right after school was over. We had the Timmy Horton tournament. I
Okay.
don't remember what time of year it was. It was May or
Okay.
June.
May or June. Yeah, I remember when Timmy did that. Anything else? What was water temp? Will, do you remember?
Water temp was anywhere from like 78 to 80
Okay.
from what I've seen,
Okay. And
which to me seems like it's a little cooler for this time of year.
yeah, well, it's a lot cooler than what it was last year when we were at Gunnersville. We were around that 85, 86 degree mark last year at Gunnersville. Um, we had 20, Lord, I just read it just a minute ago. We had 26 bags over 20 pounds. Does that surprise you at all based on your practice at Pickwick and the dock talk that you heard?
Yeah, so based off what we've seen and what we had heard, we had heard some people catching big ones, one or two here and there. And obviously it is practice and people's not going to sit there and lean on them.
Right.
But we didn't have a very easy practice. I mean, we caught fish, but nothing like what we caught during the tournament. It really surprised me when I heard that many bags over 20 pounds.
Do you think the rain and the weather helped the bite on Saturday?
I think it did. Just because, like I said, we weren't catching those better quality fish on those little bit deeper stumps.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thinking behind it is we had that rain and a little bit of lightning, and maybe some of those bigger largemouths kind of pulled out on the edge on
Mm-hmm.
some of those deeper stumps that we catch them.
Yeah, I know I got into town late Thursday and the weather was just nasty. I mean, I was in the live studio and I really thought I was fixing to go for a roll. Like I thought the trailer was about to take flight. It was so windy and we had the awning out, which to me just makes it like a sailboat. It's going to go, but it was really nasty weather out there practicing on Thursday. How many days did you guys practice for this event?
We got out there first thing Thursday morning,
Okay.
and then our practice was cut short Friday due to the storms that came in Friday evening. I think we were done by about 11 o'clock, 11:30, before
Okay.
that last band came Friday evening.
Okay. Um, I know this is your first year back fishing the North Division. You fished the South Division before. What does this mean to have a win on the Alabama Bass Trail? You fished against these anglers for a long time. I mean, you're young, but you fished against them for a long time, both of you. Jake, what's this mean to have this win against this crew of anglers?
Well, that's something we always wanted to do. We knew how good, or how hard it was to win one of these. So to win one with the crew of people that we beat, that means a lot.
Will?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, just the group of anglers in the Alabama Bass Trail is just really incredible, even between the North and the South. And to be able to win, I mean, really means a lot to us. We've competed against a lot of these guys, but just being able to compete and win on a TVA lake against some of those guys just is really special.
You certainly topped quite a few. When I look down the list at some of these guys that are known, I mean, sledgehammers on this lake. I mean, Nolan Spencer, Jonathan Reese, Mitch Mitchell, Candler McCollum is sitting in 10th, Ty Cox, Cameron Gautney in 11th, Eric White, I mean, sitting in 12th. Looking down, Hunter Brewer and Nathan Brewer, I mean, just stone cold fish catchers, and you guys beat them by 5, 6 pounds. That's a heck of a day at any lake, especially on the Tennessee River. Heck of a tournament. You punched your ticket to the championship. You were in the points. I thought you were gonna you stay there in the points, but you're in the championship. You got to win. What's your experience on Wheeler Lake?
Uh, Pretty much the same as Pickwick. We had a little bit of experience back there in high school and college,
Mm-hmm.
but looking forward to getting back there.
fall tournament going to be a little bit different than what you experienced on Pickwick in June. I want to ask you, I mean, we talked about what it feels like for you to win an Alabama Bass Trail tournament. Talk about what did you get a lot of phone calls, text messages, and all that?
Yes, ma'am. Throughout the entire way in and on the ride home and everything, we had a bunch of people reach out and just really congratulating us. It's a pretty good feeling.
I had a guy text me last night and he said it is so hard to win an Alabama Bass Trail event. You almost need everything to go perfect. You have to fish clean. You have to capitalize on those moments. Is that how it went for you guys? Did you have any mistakes, miss anything? Anything happen for you on Saturday that you thought, okay, that does it. We're not going to make it?
No, me and Jake actually talked about that on the ride home. It's very cliche, everybody typically says it, but it really is when it's your time to win. And kind of the same thing played true Saturday. We had several fish that would come off in the net as we were netting them. They'd come loose and unbuttoned, but we'd still get them in the net and get them in. We was able to keep all our fish alive and keep them from expiring. Just really everything just went right.
That's awesome. We hear that all the time, and so I'm beginning to believe it. Everything has to go your way. You got to fish clean. You got to make, you know, um, got to make hay while the sun's out. That's for sure. And we didn't have just sunny skies this week. Well, I'm excited for you guys. Big win. And I know we've talked about Hunter Davis and Brian Fikes, winning on Gunnersville with 58 bags over 20 pounds. But this, to my knowledge, is our biggest weighted tournament for the number of bags over 20 pounds on Pickwick Lake. So you guys also win a monumental tournament in 2025 on the Alabama Bass Trail. So congratulations, 15,000, actually 16,000 with the big fish money. Got any plans for that money? Anything exciting that you want to go buy, or are you just going to invest it? You going to put it in savings? What, you got anything planned for that money?
I'll probably just hang on to it for a little while.
Jake, how about you?
Yeah, that's about it. Whatever. I got to get it from my wife. That's gonna be the problem right there.
It's funny. Our last winner said the same thing. His wife's picking out granite countertops and all kinds of things, already spending the winnings. So, well, congratulations, guys. Forever you will be the 2025 Alabama Bass Trail North Pickwick Lake champions. Nobody can take that from you. Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Kay.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a great day, and thanks for spending time with me on the podcast.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. There you have it, guys. Will Nichols and Jake Young, your 2025 Alabama Bass Trail North Division Pickwick Lake winners. $16,000 richer, punch their ticket to Wheeler Lake for the championship. They can go ahead and make those room reservations and get it done. We'll be back in just a minute on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast, where we welcome Mr. Luke Dunkin in to talk about Lay Lake and the AOY points down there. So we'll talk to him in just a minute. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Jack's here, and in the South, we know how hard it is waiting for bowl season to come round again. So we're kicking up our own bowl season. For a limited time, you can get our new loaded fried chicken bowl. It's a hearty heap of hand-breaded chicken fingers, crispy bacon, buttered corn, and mashed potatoes with white peppered gravy. Might not fill the football-shaped hole in your heart, but it'll sure fill your stomach. Get the loaded fried chicken bowl for a limited time. We're Jack's, and we're all about the South.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast, presented by Phoenix Boats. Mr. Luke Dunkin in the truck, headed out to an MPFL, fishing, and more fishing, right, son?
That's it. I am en route, headed to actually to get on an airplane. I'm not going to drive it because logistically trying to get from there to Lay Lake was going to be a little tricky on the drive, and I'm old, fat, and tired at this point of the year. So I'm going to let Delta take me out there, and then I'll be back Friday night for the ABT South. But yeah, we're headed to Eufaula, Oklahoma to fish in the mud, or to watch guys fish in the mud, I should say. I'm not in the mud.
Well, we've had enough of Eufaula for this year on the Alabama Bass Trail. We've been there twice, and it performed really well. So a little bit different where you're going. You're 7 feet high, muddy water. it might be just a tad bit different. It'll be interesting to watch online. We'll be tuned in to see how that goes for you. But man, what a weekend on Pickwick Lake. I know a special place to you on Father's Day weekend, special place to you. Were you surprised at the weights that we saw?
I was just from talking to guys coming in that were concerned about where fish were set up when you're starting to talk history, right? And what we're learning, Darian and I actually talked about this on the way home. He called me and we were just kind of comparing notes and blown away as we tend to do driving home from an ABT. And we're just in a new world. We're in a new world. And it's got a little bit to do with live scope, being able to target these fish. But in my opinion, the fish aren't getting, and it was the same way, to be fair, in the MPFL last summer in July. The fish aren't setting up, and this is Luke Dunkin's opinion from watching these tournaments and being out there some. Those really big fish, really big bags aren't getting out there on the famous ledges, right? In these big schools. And I think we as anglers have done that, right? There's a lot of fishing pressure. And I think once my dad used to say it a lot. Sometimes we're idling, those fish are 15 feet deep. They know you're there. When you're riding around with the big motor on and you got the graphs going, they're hearing that noise. And you got to think, in a tournament with 225 boats, if that happens to them 100 times in a day, multiply
Right.
that by every week of the summer, every day of the summer, those fish. So I think they've kind of changed. And these anglers that are figuring out that change with them are the ones that are absolutely excelling right now. And so many big fish coming across the scales. Like it did surprise me. 26 bags over 20 is just insane for me on Pickwick. Especially this far in the year where they've been fished for a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the maybe not the number of bags surprised me, but just how they got caught surprised me,
Mm-hmm.
because it was the same song and dance for most of the guys that were way up there, seemed like.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I talked to Will Nichols and Jake. They talked about being in that 10 to 12 foot range, and they
Yep.
were fishing stumps, not necessarily that ledge, but more like the
Right.
stumps. So that was an interesting conversation with them. But 26 bags over 20 pounds, 27.69 to take the win with a 787 big.
Yeah.
Nice bass for Pickwick Lake. Good to see that lake. We had 54 fish over 5 pounds.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. That's good
That
to
was
hear.
awesome to see.
And we heard a lot of people catching a lot of 2 pounders, which is really exciting as we go into next year being there in March. That should be somewhere
Yeah.
in that 3 pound range. So
So,
it's what you want to see.
yeah, no doubt that was the most encouraging thing too. And you and I talked about this on stage. The guys saying, man, we caught 40, 50, 60, we caught 100, just couldn't get those big ones. But hearing that the numbers, because have heard from buddies of mine that fish Pickwick on the regular, every day, almost guiding and whatnot, that they were worried in the last couple of years that they weren't seeing those numbers like they used to see. So I saw that with Mark McKegg and Tim Hurst, who I spent the most amount of time with on live. They caught a ton of bass. I mean,
Hmm.
they had a day that most people would, maybe not weight wise for them. I know they were disappointed. They ended up with 15 pounds, but just when we were watching, I mean, it seemed like they were setting the hook more than they weren't.
Right.
And they were fishing shallow. So you could really pick your poison and get a bite. That was one cool thing about being on the water, whether you were scoping, whether you're fishing ledges, whether you're fishing at the dam, whether you're fishing shallow, you could catch bass pretty much any way you wanted to. It was just getting that, you had to have those 4.5+ pounders to even have an opportunity, because it took 24 pounds to be in the top 10, which is crazy
Exactly.
to say. Crazy to
It
say.
One thing I was shocked about, we had 640 fish weighed in, only 37 smallmouth.
Yeah, that surprised me too.
But they
Really
didn't have a
surprised me.
ton of current running either. So, as much rain as we've gotten, you would think that there would have been more current. But I think that might have something to do with that smallmouth bite, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And then I talked to some guys that said that the smallmouth, I think they turn real nomadic this time of year. They start roaming on bait a lot, and
Hmm.
you'll be sitting on a river ledge, and those crazy suckers will just come up blowing up in the middle of the river on shad. I've seen that so many times in my life, and I heard several guys talking about that. Dude, I think Willie, no, excuse me, the second place team caught caught a big, they had a big small, they caught it schooling on the way in.
Huh.
But they talked about that. So I think there could be something to do with that a little bit. Actually, Mr. Jerry Wright, who was there at the weigh-in, told me he's been seeing that a lot lately as well. And it's just something that happens. And if you're fortunate enough to have a topwater tied on and they come up close to you, you can get well in a hurry. But other than that, they just, kind of wave at you and go on. I think
It's
that could
kind.
have something to do with
I don't know about you, but seeing Brandon Staggs and Jerry Wright standing side by side is a scary, scary thing.
it.
I,
Listen, I think they were there because they thought the record was going to go down. They thought there was going to be some kind of ceremony in their honor, is what I think. That's why I think they were hanging around.
I think so too. They thought it could. Brandon said that. Hell, it could go
Brandon
down.
was, Brandon was dressed up. He
Yeah,
had took a shower. I was surprised to see that.
me too on a
Had his
Saturday.
wife with him. Had his
I
wife
know.
with him. I didn't know what was going on.
Well, he must have thought the record was going to go down. We were going to interview him. Hell, we probably should have interviewed him. I mean, their record has
Probably,
stood for
yeah.
12 years, so we probably
That's
should have interviewed
insane.
him.
Think about all the big weights that get caught now. I mean, we see better than average bags win almost every tournament, but that record is still a broken trolling motor record at that. It's
Yes.
still holding up from the first ever ABT. I still blows my mind.
Me too. Me too. Well, we've talked about Pickwick. Great tournament, great event. Rounded out the season, crowned a new Angler of the Year winner, Hunter Davidson, Bryant Fikes, their first year on the Alabama Bass Trail North Division and take home Angler of the Year, and came back from fourth place to do it. And I got a chance to talk to Damian Willis on his drive home about that. And of course, it's a kick in the stomach to those guys. Second
No
year, I
doubt.
think, in a row, they finished second in the points. Came back early because they didn't want to risk losing a fish and ended up 3 points shy of the Angler of the Year title. I know that has to sting. So he actually sent me a screenshot of his graph, and it looked like a bowl of spaghetti, dude. Like I'm not. The
Uh,
lines were just around and round and round and round. So I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk with him again on a show soon. But let's talk about Lay Lake finishing up the South Division. Yeah, the win is going to be important to anyone who gets it. But when you look at this Angler of the Year race, Zeke Gossett, Ethan King leading by 53 points in the South Division over none other than Noah and Cole Godwin, who have a win on Lay Lake. Going to be tough for them to surpass Zeke and Ethan on Lay Lake for Angler of the Year.
yeah, you would think that the odds are stacked against them a little bit there, just because Zeke and Ethan are if it anything they're consistent, right? Like they are, no matter where we go, they're going to have a good bag. They might not have a winning bag, but they're going to have a top 20 bag almost everywhere we go, it seems.
Mhm.
So when you're 53 behind, they gotta slip. And
Yeah.
Zeke and Ethan, this time of year especially, they tend to not slip. Noah and Cole are amazing. If there's a lake they can do it on, it's Lay. But I just think Zeke and Ethan are so consistent.
Yeah, talk about that. 20th place is the lowest they finished this year, and that was Martin. That could
Yeah,
literally have been a quarter of a pound. I mean,
yeah,
because the weights are so
yeah.
stacked at Martin, they could have been a quarter of a pound out of, first place and still slipped to 20th place. It's just the weights are so stacked at that lake. They've had a 20th place, a fourth place, 12th place, and fifth. So for them to slip 54 points, going to be kind of hard to overtake them. Most people think that it's pretty much a lock for them in Angler of the Year. Based on my math, they've got to finish farther down than 41st place to take overall Angler of the Year. Um, could be looking at an overall Angler of the Year as well.
Well, Miss Kane, I will say this, and people think we try to build up drama, but I've been doing this a long time. And I'll throw this back to an MPFL year one. Brandon Perkins had Angler of the Year locked up. Coming back to the ramp, motor problems. Did not get there. Loses Angler of the Year on the last day of the season. We had already gone off live. Then I think back to the ABT North finale last year. Zeke and Ethan leading. They have boat trouble. They had a backup boat there, but totally threw their game off that day, right? So anything can happen. You can't just hand them the trophies yet, but if all things are normal, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, it is. Lay Lake summertime tournament, four wins have gone to Chris Rutland, Kobe Carden.
Yeah.
post June 1st. So, I mean, that's got to be in everybody's mind that you're going to want to watch those guys on Lay Lake. But there's some other teams out there. Certainly, we've talked about Noah and Cole Godwin. Um, haven't seen a lot. I can tell you from 5 or 6 different text messages that I got yesterday, the ramp was full. Paradise Point and Beeswax both very full yesterday. A lot of practice going on. A lot of teams have got to have a good finish to get inside the top 75 cut to make it to the championship. Teams that don't typically have to really worry about that. So they're spending a good bit of time down there on Lay Lake. Any idea, any weight predictions you think for Lay Lake?
I'm going to say 21. 21.
21. Hmm. Okay. All right. Well, as everybody wants to know, we've got to have your picks. I need your 5 picks.
Before I start this, I just got to say what blows my mind about this podcast. Because look, I do a podcast every week for years, and I rarely run into, other than the Bassmaster Classic, I don't run into a lot of people that listen to it, and I'm very fortunate that a lot of people do. But when we do these picks, I hear about this a lot from our anglers. And I just want to say, if you get left out, I'm sorry. If I put extra pressure on you, I'm sorry. Because I had one before the ABT 100 come up to me. He's like, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Put the pressure on me. And I'm like, hey, I'm just throwing a bone out there.
Mhm.
So they do listen. ABT anglers are listening. They're paying attention. So first, Zeke and Ethan, not picking against them ever in the South Division in particular, I don't think, but especially on the Coosa River. They're on a great run right now. Had another good one at Pickwick. After a great one at the ABT 100, they're real close in that points race as well with Justin Bussey and Ben Webb, and then they're just Coosa River hammers. So Zeke and Ethan, Kobe and Chris, Kobe Card and Chris Rutland. That's that's an easy one. That's a no-brainer. Got to pick them. Been knowing those guys a long time, and they are absolutely terrifying on that lake in the summertime. Noah and Cole, second angler of the year race, fantastic on the Coosa River, fantastic everywhere we go. Great shallow water fishermen, and now in the last few years, great at the scoping deal. They can do a little bit of everything, so they're dangerous. I'm going with our champs, the 2024 champs, Nick and Joe, Nicholas Turner, Joe Lay. They talked to those guys at Eufaula, covered them for a little bit, and I said, "Yeah, how much are y'all looking forward to the end of the year there?" And they're both grinning. So I feel like, man, they've kind of had a tough year a little
Yeah.
bit this year. I
Yep.
feel like, so I think that'll be one they could show out. And then I'm going Foster Bradley, Nick Harris in my 5, because those two guys, whether they're fishing together over the years or separate with other partners, they're always in the top 10 of Lay Lake. So that's my 5. And then my dark horse, I believe they're third in the Angler of the Year race. Frank Bradfield, Tyler Morgan working the baby pattern, and they have been absolutely on fire. So that's my dark horse for really no reason, because they're amazing anglers, but dark horse, and they are rocking the baby pattern.
I don't hate your picks. I mean, obviously, we have a lot that are the same. The only one that we have that are different, I did not have Nick and Joe. I didn't have them. I did have all the other ones that you had. I had Chapel and Davis because they need a good finish here to get into the championship. A non-traditional year for them. They have not
Yeah.
had their type of year. And honestly, in talking to them, they've just had 1 or 2 things happen that, and talked to Will Nichols and Jake earlier, and they said, it really is true. When you win an Alabama Bass Pro, you need everything to go right. And that's what
Yeah.
happened with him yesterday. And it's same thing with not necessarily losing, but just not having the year that you need. And I think Josh Chappell, Paul Davis put it together, have a good finish on Lay Lake. So that was my replacement for your Nick and Joe, is Josh Chappell and Paul Davis. My dark horse, Blake Davenport, Zach Lightsey.
Okay.
That's my dark horse. I don't know why I have them. I just see their names dude, all the time up in the
Fish
standings
catchers.
on the yeah, they are. They're fish catchers. I like Tyler Malone and Cade Law too. A lot of
Yeah.
guys in this top 25, I think. But looking at the points, I mean, it's going to be hard to unseat Zeke and Ethan sitting there. But there are some teams just outside that top nine. I would say down to probably 20th place that I think could realistically make it inside that top nine. But when I look at the ABT North and the teams we're sending to the Bass Team Championship, I mean, Hunter and Bryant, hell of a year. Hell of a
Oh
year.
man. Yeah.
Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker. Another team like just blew my mind this year. Jake Bice and Briar Chambers.
Dude, can't talk about those two enough. And Briar fishing with Brandon Blackwood down in the good old 100s, and they're up there in the points in that.
Yeah.
Like I mean, can't enough good things be said about them boys right now.
No, they are
On fire.
the only thing I can say, and I mentioned this when I called him out on Saturday. I kind of maybe had a little bit of a heavy foot coming home from Eufaula the other day, and I passed him on 65, and he was on the phone with Kim Stryker, and he told on me.
How did
He
you out?
ratted me out.
Oh,
I got a text message immediately. Slow yourself down. I said, aha, Briar done got me. I
that's
knew exactly
amazing.
who it was. Then you
He
got
got you.
Adam Bain, Chris Colley. Again, we got to understand this is going to Lake Hartwell. Very similar to what these guys are used to
Yeah.
fishing there on the Coosa River. Fifth place, Mark McKeag, Tim Hurst. Sixth place, Nolan Spencer, Jonathan Reese. What about a performance by Nolan Spencer at Pickwick going
I
solo?
mean, yeah, rolling solo. Yeah, rolling solo and
25
absolutely
pounds.
smashing on them.
Yeah, heck of a job. Seventh place, Blake Hall, Jeremy Lamb. Their first year on the Alabama Bass Trail together. Jeremy's first year. They're doing well in the ABT 100s as well. Fisher and Ryan and I in eighth place. Got to think Fisher's looking forward to go into Lake Hartwell, and then Benji and Jonathan Seaborn. So those top nine already guaranteed going to the Bassmaster Team Championship.
Yeah, we're sending a crew. So if any teams are watching from around the country, you better tighten up. I'm just gonna
Bring
tell you, because the ABT crew is not playing around. That bunch right there, you don't want that smoke.
no, you do not
I'll
want
just
that
call it
smoke.
out
Yeah, and looking at the guys that are stacked up in the South Division are equally as talented. So it's going to be fun to see how that shakes out. Who's going to take home that overall Angler of the Year? Again, if there is a tie for some crazy reason, we go back, we add up the weight for the year, and we figure out by weight who the
right
Anglers
now. Okay.
of the Year are. So that's how we do that. Anything else you've got that you want to talk about?
You know, Miss K, we could talk about Darien if you'd
We
like.
could. We could.
I'm actually headed, so I actually have to give him a positive shout out. I normally give him negative shout outs. Uh, I'm headed to drop my boat off to him. On my way, I'm flying out of Birmingham to make all this work this week, planes, trains, and automobiles. But I got to give Darien a shout out for allowing me. It's the second time this year he has catered to me and kept my boat while I go to an MPFL back in time for ABT. So thank you, Darian. I rarely say that, but I got to say thank you for that. I guess we can end on Darian and I being nice to each other, which is rare.
That is rare. That is rare. Darian was on his funny game on Saturday.
Listen, yeah, he stays on it. Let's tell this on the ABT podcast. So I'm headed to his shop right now. I've been known to play a little pickleball. Okay, Miss K. I may look really fat, and I am, but I like to exercise from time to time. Pickleball, good way to get some steps in for the old man here. Darian has become obsessed with pickleball. So, as you well know, between us, lots of trash talk been going on for about 3 months on this deal. He's probably hired a professional coach and all kind of stuff, knowing him since he's been on Shark Tank, because I know him. And he has a court inside the Y'all Sweet Tea warehouse, and I have been challenged today. So before I go to the Birmingham airport to fly to Oklahoma, I will just admit this right here. we've got to beat Darien in pickleball first. But he started chirping at 6:30 this morning in Texas. And I'm going to go ahead and start making excuses. My wife has my paddle. We have a bag with all the family's gear in it because we go as a crew most of the time. My kids love to play. And she has my paddle. So I texted him. I said, hey, man, do you have any extra paddles? Marissa drove off with my paddle this morning. And he goes, oh, I got all kind of paddles that I love to let people use while I beat them. So that's how my day started. So I'm going to be a sweaty mess, most likely at the Birmingham airport after playing him and Brandon, his business partner and best friend, another good buddy of mine, at pickleball. So y'all pray for me. Y'all, the pickleball match will already be over when y'all are watching this, but I just pray no ACL tears or anything like that.
Yes.
When you get this age, that's what you worry about.
Trust me. Yeah. You're talking to someone who tore their ACL dancing at the Pink Pony Pub with Gerald Swindle. So, and I swore I would never admit that in public. And there it is.
There it is. It
Pink
happens
Pony
sometimes.
Pub, Gulf
Pink
Shores,
Pony Pub.
Alabama. Gerald Swindle, baby got back. I don't even know if we have to close the show now. I mean, I think that's pretty much
That's it. I think, or you could sing Pink Pony Club by Chaperone if you'd like to. We could just sing
I
it.
think we'll just
Get
let
this
Ben
off
maybe
there.
edit that in. We'll let Ben kind of edit
Yeah.
that in. But
I
every
don't know
time
we
I
can
hear
put
that
that on
song,
YouTube. Yeah.
every time I hear that song, I have to forward it to Gerald because
Yeah.
we all know.
Every time I hear that song, I think about the Pink Pony Pub in Gulf Shores because I grew up going there, going to Gulf Shores over the years with my dad, mom and dad, we'd go get cheeseburgers at the Pink Pony Pub sometimes. Greasy cheeseburgers, money. So when I first heard that song, I was like, is she talking about Gulf Shores? And then come to find out it's a totally different place.
Totally different place.
Totally different place. But shout out to Chaperone. I'll sing it my way, Pink Pony Pub instead of club. That's how we're singing at the Dunkin House.
Well, good deal. Well, be careful in the pickleball game and on your way out to Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma. We will see you on Friday back at Lake.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Miss Kate.
Thank you. There you have it. Mr. Luke Dunkin, the voice of the Alabama Bass Trail, making his picks for Lake. We'll see if he is right on Saturday. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be back for the final segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Be right back.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Mr. Luke Dunkin, always fun to have him on the show. We've got just a couple more things to cover and we'll get you guys back out on the road. I do want to thank you for listening today. I did also want to thank everyone for signing up for the 2026 Alabama Bass Trail 100. Sold out in just under 33 hours. Anglers from 11 states. It's crazy to me. Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Mississippi, Indiana, Virginia, Texas, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Illinois. 11 states. Super, super excited to welcome all those new teams, about 50 or so new teams to the Alabama Bass Trail 100s. It's going to be a fun time getting ready for that, but we still have some work to do. We still have one South event. We've got the ABT Championship and then also the final ABT 100 of the year in November. For everyone that is, that might want to fish the Alabama Bass Trail 100, I highly encourage that you get on the waiting list. It does not cost you anything. And each year we do have one or two teams that back out and we do go to the waiting list to fill those. So please make sure that you log on and add yourself to the waiting list. That's alabamabasstrail100.org. Click register and it'll ask you if you'd like to be added to the waiting list. So make sure that you go and do that. The ABT South wraps up this weekend on Lay Lake. I mentioned this in our last podcast. A number of our teams do fish both divisions, so it will take us a couple of days to go through and sort out who all makes the championship through the couples, the high school teams, the college, the North and the South, just because of people that fish both and may double qualify. So please give us a couple days. We'll try to have that out by mid next week. But please do not call me on Sunday. Do not text me. Do not Facebook me on Sunday asking me if I know who is going to make it into the championship, because I won't know and I won't be working on Sunday. So please do not text me and ask me. As I had several do this past weekend. I will not know until mid of next week. It takes a lot to figure out who all has double qualified, who fished higher in the north, or did they fish higher in the south. It's just a lot, and we don't work on Sundays. So please keep that to yourself, and we will let you know as soon as we get that figured out. All right. ABT priority registration starts in 45 days, August 1st through the 14th. Will be priority registration. You will receive your team ID and PIN numbers about a week ahead of time to let you know. And then new team registration opens up August 15th, 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, alabamabastrail.org. Click register and you'll be able to go and register then. I will be making a video leading up to that, letting you know everything that you need to know about registration and how you get through that process. So that's all we have for today on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I do hope you will subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Always, always, always hug your mom and them. If you're fortunate enough to still have your mom, dad, brothers, sisters, aunts, and uncles with you, please make sure that you tell them that you love them. Hold them a little tighter, and make sure you take care of those fur babies. Give them a little extra treat, a little extra love. We love our fur babies. Again, thank you for tuning in. I want to thank Will Nichols and Jake Young for taking time to be with me, as well as Mr. Luke Dunkin, and wish him well in his pickleball contest against Mr. Darren Craig. I'm sure we'll hear all about it on the lake next Saturday at Lay Lake. So y'all have a great day, and we will see you soon. God bless and peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.